Hey everyone, this is Peter, just an ordinary citizen from Carrizo Springs, coming at you from Dimmit County. We're willing to share a lot of information that not many people want to share, but you can go to Dimmit County Border Crisis Reports for more information. We're here live bringing to you information about what's happening regarding the border crisis. Who I have here with me is Frank Lopez Jr. Can you introduce yourself, Frank?
Yeah, Frank Lopez Jr. I am from Del Rio, Texas. And I'm down here doing a little bit of reporting, following up on some other business that had to get taken care of.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that. Now, how about your background? I'm sure there's a lot of people who really don't know who you are and your background. Yeah. You've been in a lot of different things, haven't you?
Yes, sir. So real quick, I was born and raised in McAllen, Texas, raised in Alamo. Then when I was 12, my dad moved us to El Paso. He was hired by the Border Patrol. Graduated from high school there in El Paso, joined the U.S. Army, military policing. Fort Benning, Georgia, Honduras, Central America, Mainz, West Germany, came out, got out, and started going to college. But then the Border Patrol came knocking. 30 years later, I retired in 2018. Yeah. Along the way, I met my beautiful wife, got married, have twin sons. After I retired, I got involved in politics, and I'm also, national security, border security, a child advocate out here, and I'm also an ordained minister. Started the chaplaincy program in the Border Patrol. So it's about a desire to serve people and being out here a voice for the people as well.
Well, thank you, Frank, for sharing all that information. I totally appreciate it. We appreciate it here, especially in Dimmit County. For those of you who are barely coming onto all of the information that you have been receiving here at Dimmit County, we're trying to shine the light on the border crisis and not just pinpointing a few people in town or situations, but looking at the overall picture, which is emphasizing that all of this interaction and activity that is going on is due to what's going on with the Biden administration. Policies that stem first from this administration that has really been wreaking havoc at our borders and causing a lot of harm. So we want to encourage you, first, get informed. And this is not about race. This is not about not extending our hand to help other people. This is about looking at what is going on due to these border policies that is becoming an increasingly a security threat. And it's becoming a security threat to our country. And Dimmit County is home to a couple of influx facilities. And so we've been seeing a lot of bus traffic, a lot of different changes in our own community. We have hotels packed. We have staff from out of town. These influx facilities are at max capacity. For those of you who don't know, myself, my wife, my father, we had the privilege of touring one of those influx facilities, so we have firsthand knowledge of how one of them is run, and I want to make it clear that not all of them are run the same. So Frank and a few others have come down pretty frequently to share with us information that they see also in Del Rio. These gentlemen are on the front line seeing things that most of us as regular, ordinary citizens just don't see. We're busy with our jobs, busy with our families. And these gentlemen are out there getting the information, and we need to be exposed to it because we need to understand that there is an attack on our nation. There is an invasion. We have to be completely honest. There is an invasion. It's not about ignoring. In fact, there's families coming over and children. If we're going to be really concerned about that, we have to remember that the Biden administration has policies in place that are opening the floodgates of our country. And as these families make the dangerous journey over, many of them encounter harmful experiences. Not only that, but a majority that are coming with them that are from other countries include criminals, drugs, human smuggling. Yes, there is sex trafficking. There's money to be made. There's a monster to feed. This is a reality. And if it's going to stop, we have to point at the Biden administration and say, shut these borders down. Stop allowing so many people to come in and believe that they can come in and break our laws as they make their way through the border. Remember, there's a way to legally come in. If we've already had over 1 million individuals come through our country, 15,000 recently in Del Rio, and then there's reports of another 20,000. Yeah. How much more do we need to say enough is enough? Well, we have gentlemen like Frank who are out there bringing us information. We recently saw you live on Facebook going to one of our influx facilities. Let me ask you a question. Frank, what really brought you to Carrizo to go to this influx facility and see for yourself after all that's happened?
So what transpired with that, Peter, is that, of course, the eyes of the nation and actually the eyes of the world were on Del Rio because of the Haitian refugee camp, the Haitian invader camp, whatever you want to call it. They were underneath the international port of entry there in Del Rio. And so, actually it swelled up to almost 18,000 people. By the time it was all said and done, there were, by DHS accounts, Department of Homeland Security accounts, 30,000 Haitians alone. That's excluding Colombianos, Venezuelans, Africanos, Africans, Central Americans. That's just 30,000 Haitians that had come through. And so as the optics of that situation got bad enough that the Biden administration started taking heat from some of its more radical, parts of the far left, Black Lives Matter, Al Sharpton, they came out there because there was an allegation of mistreatment of the illegal aliens by Border Patrol agents. As you know, I was a Border Patrol agent for 30 years, and it's coming now to light. And even the videographer who took those images of an alleged whipping taking place, he says that was not true. So anyways, as all that was transpiring, the Biden administration was realizing that the situation was getting out of hand. So they cleared it out. They cleared out this camp within a matter of 3 or 4 days.
Yes.
Totally cleared it out. Now there's still illegal aliens coming across. And so that's what I started doing. The reason I came here is because I had to go and show the world that the bad optics were being covered up, but the invasion is still taking place. People are still being processed and people are still being released into our country. And so I had gone down to South Texas actually for a conference on human trafficking down there. And from there I went to the Donna facility, the DPC, the Donna Processing Center down there, where there's thousands of people. It was intended to be a family unit down there. But they started taking Haitians down there that they had transported, dispersed from Del Rio. So all they did was just, move the ball around. And so on the way back here to Del Rio, my wife remembered that there was a facility here in Del Rio, and so I found out where it is from a local, person, and we went. And so I started filming that, what was transpiring down there, Peter. And as I got up there, I saw all these buses, man, like 14 big charter buses. I call them casino charter buses. They're capable of handling, 55, 60 people each. Yeah. And I realize now that I showed up as the day shift was going home. Yeah. And so that led to some interesting developments there. But to answer your question, what brought me here was that I was taking the opportunity, since I was already in the location, to go and film it, broadcast it to the rest of America, because there's a lot of people that don't know what's happening. And I would even tell you, Peter, that there's people in Carrizo Springs that have probably never driven down the road that I drove.
No, I can guarantee that.
To get to that facility. They don't even know what's happening in their own town.
Yeah, no, we can confirm that as well. Yeah. We've been doing this since February. For those of you who are new to who we are in Dimmit County, myself and my wife, in February this all began, and we only got wind of it because we came out on the news, on mainstream news. We had a reporter, Gabe Gutierrez, one of the most famous reporters on mainstream news from MSNBC. He came down to report to us that live in Carrizo, that one influx facility was open. It was going to be at max capacity, and there was another one ready to be open. We did not get that information from our leaders. Yeah. Now, through the course of events, we all gathered, started calling, emailing, going about the right channels. We were able to eventually set up a meeting with the sheriff department, some of our local leaders from the city of Carrizo Springs. So we were able to have some conversation, but we still have been on the front lines to try to bring attention to this. And here is the facts. Number one, a majority of our community is blue. And this, again, isn't just to put a dividing line between red and blue. It's just understandable that if you have more Democrat ideals, and you don't have to agree with me, but it's just a reality, there's a different view on immigration. So coming to a community that's largely Hispanic, largely Democrat, and of course a lot of our leaders are also Democrat, there hasn't been a lot of attention put on it, and rather a lot of it's been avoided. So we have been the only voice among many others. Thank you so much to those who have joined us and spread that information to really help our community see. We're not against families. We're not against individuals. We're not against immigration. We are against illegal immigration. And what we see is that what's happening coming through our town is one cog in the whole system. We're a spoke in the whole system that's keeping this running. And our point is to come to this and say, look, a lot of these families, you don't realize they are going through some hard times when they come over here. And many don't understand the difference between asylum seekers, those who are immigrants, and the process. A lot of these individuals are coming over illegally. They're not coming through the right port of entry, which is important for you to understand. Now, when we have such a massive influx, here's the other situation, is that COVID is all over the news. You see it every single day. Our lives are almost in a way even just guided by what's happening. Now, if our administration is going to be consistent, all the pressures that we're facing, to wearing masks, getting vaccinated, those same measures are not being also placed on those who are coming over. And we have many examples and facts that show us that a lot of these individuals are bringing in COVID, among other diseases. Here in Carrizo Springs, we have the numbers put out for COVID, and many people don't know that they're lumped together. They're not actually separated. So when you see 100 cases, for example, put up daily, these are the cases. You don't actually know which are from the facilities here, the influx facilities, and which are actually of our residents. So that can be very confusing. That spreads more fear, a lot of misconceptions. Now, when it comes to understanding how most of these facilities have COVID and are dealing with them, some might say, well, look, they're not being released into the community. They're not bothering anyone. It's okay. We're just going to deal with our own. But we know that's not completely true, because if there's something that goes on at one of these facilities, they are going to go to our local hospital. There's going to be help there. The other issue is that we have workers coming from out of town that work at these influx facilities. When you went to that influx facility, Frank, the buses you saw, they were also including staff. There's a lot of buses that are taking staff to and fro. So this isn't to create any prejudice against any of these workers who are trying to do their job. And we would take the position it's not helping, it's actually encouraging more illegal immigration. That's our position. But nevertheless, they're still shopping at our stores, they're still eating at our restaurants, and there's still going to be contact. So again, if we're facing pressures like in our school to have a mask mandate in our schools and to make sure we get vaccinated, then why is there such a stark contrast? Why is there not equal grounding in everything that's going on with all the illegal immigration when we have thousands of people coming through our town every single day?
I have a couple of ideas, but look, here's one. The product that's in those facilities is a money-making engine for Carrizo Springs, and so okay, so let me qualify that. The product, what I mean, the people that are in those facilities are a product, and what I mean by that is, first of all, a lot of them have come through the cartel pipeline. A lot of those children in other facilities, women and families, they're in America and they've gone through the cartel pipeline. They've paid people off. There's a lot of reports of these people paying Mexican law enforcement officials as they go from town to town, from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. They've had to bribe all their way in. And so they end up in the United States, most of them after either the cartels or the United Nations has pushed them in here. And that's a big deal there, Peter, because the United Nations deals with ideology. And the United Nations wants to push their agenda on the world, and they're involved in this in Mexico. They are actually in Mexico. The Biden administration got them to participate down in Mexico. And then the other aspect of it, ideology, is greed, money. There's a lot of money to be made. All you have to do is go look at these facilities, the tremendous infrastructure, the organization, the resources and assets, the manpower. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And the U.S. government gave out, at least that we're aware of, no-bid contracts to 3 major corporations, NGOs, to the tune of $2 billion. And so that's why, you know, I understand, you know, for economically, you know, depressed areas like Dimmit, Zavala County, Eagle Pass, and even Del Rio Alverde, who have not seen, you know, true manufacturing take a foothold, It's very easy to allow government to be the main economic engine. But what that happens when you put more trust on the government being the source of capital for your area, you have a dependency on government, and that plays right into the Democrat Party and their idea of how government is the nanny from the cradle to the grave. And then it also allows, unfortunately, the citizenry of a community, in this place, Dimmit, Carrizo Springs, Dimmit County, it conditions them to be okay with what's transpiring here because there's money to be made. And look, folks, this is a spiritual and a moral issue. There are children here at this facilities that after they exit the facilities, yes, supposedly they're being placed in foster parenting and host homes, but reality, the government's going to lose track of them. There's already information out there where that's transpiring. They're losing track of, it's either 40% and the other 60 or 60%. I got to double check on that. But they're losing contact of the children to the point to where a couple of legislators here from Texas, Cornyn and Tony Gonzalez, had to submit some legislation that speaks to these children have to be followed, tracked, because they're losing touch with them, and people don't know where they're winding up at. And that's what grieves us. That's what concerns us. That's why we had the rally here on May 15th. We knew that children would be put in harm's way with all this operation. You're just enticing and encouraging human sex trafficking and the trafficking of children.
And I want to answer that too, because that's actually a question. Like, I want to piggyback off of that. That's a question, and that often comes our way is, well, this is not happening here. It can't happen here. Let me speak to that really quickly. Okay, one of the reasons why we were adamant about doing this rally was to bring awareness to the fact that sex trafficking happens. All you have to do is a little bit of research. It's $1 billion industry, if not more. I mean, there's so much money to be made off of children, and that's just children. I'm not even talking about adult human trafficking that also still goes on in our country. So that was first a reality, to bring awareness that this is something that happens. It happens every day, and it's happening in our country. So when you exacerbate that issue by opening the floodgates for so many people to come in who are also bringing children, it's also a fact that a lot of these cartels are taking the families, bringing them across. When we first got into this border crisis, our sheriff's department, not only from our county but from other counties, they were having interactions and dealings with a lot of these issues. A lot of them had bracelets. You probably saw information with people who are caught that have bracelets that show where they're coming from and how much that were paid. So that was also going on. A lot of money to be made from the cartels. And so things have been changing over the past few months. People are still coming over. That hasn't changed. So when it comes to the children, again, you might have seen images of children being abandoned. What about those that we haven't seen? You might have seen images of people dying. What about those whom we haven't seen? Crossing the river, being stuck out in the monte, out there in the trees, in the wilderness. How many haven't we seen? And that's a bigger question that you have to ask. That would not have happened if they didn't believe that they could come over here, and that is all on the Biden administration. So we first look at that problem and say, look, we have to stop this. This needs to end because so many people are getting hurt. So when it comes to the facility, going back to my point with what Frank said about how these contribute to the opportunity for more money to be made and for children to get lost and for children to get used. Some say, well, that's not happening here. Now, we were able to tour one facility, and we saw how the operations go. We saw the people who were there. They were the director of this particular facility, which is located at the studios here in Carrizo Springs. It's called Carrizo Springs 1. We saw how their process goes, and we could not confirm that there was any abuse happening there. But what we were given information was for sure that a lot of the kids and adults experience traumatic things on their way over here, regardless. There were some concerns about the second facility that were brought to our attention, but I want to make the point because it's a reality, and I believe Frank can confirm this, is even if in Dimmit County, okay, Maybe we can't confirm that at one facility,
Yeah.
and they're doing their very best to make sure that they're processed and taken out. We still can't guarantee 100% that they're going where they're going.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee what happens after that. And we also can't guarantee that it's not happening anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's just a reality. And this massive influx helps to feed the beast, and that's just a reality.
Well, let me say something, bro. I mean, look, you're an assistant pastor, you know, Peter. You're involved with the ministry. I'm an ordained minister. I've also been a law enforcement officer. So we deal with the human condition, bro.
Yeah.
And part of that human condition is the propensity of people to commit evil, to do evil thoughts. The evil lurks in our hearts, you know,
Yeah.
and that's why, you know, from a faith perspective, you know, we have the tenets of our faith.
Yeah.
The need for redemption, forgiveness, a savior.
Yeah.
But from a law enforcement perspective, we deal with criminals and crime, and the dynamics at work in that sphere. Well, let me tell you something. There have been assaults, maybe not here in Dimmit County, but in El Paso and San Antonio. There were reports of inappropriate, otherwise known as sexual contact with the adults and the children. And let me tell you something. Places like this, like Dimmit County, are a magnet for people that have deviant desires. I'll just say it that way, bro.
Sure,
I'm gonna
sure.
say it. You know, that's why folks that have a desire, an urge for sexual interaction with children, pedophiles or whatever you want to call them, they will look for opportunities to interact with children. And so I'm praying and I'm hoping that the corporate, staff that does the hiring here, that they are on heightened alert to protect those children, because this is a magnet for people such as that. And there's other professions. I mean, I'm not just slamming, and I'm not by any way means saying, hey, there's a bunch of pedophiles over there. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that evil does exist, and it has occurred in other facilities. And so they need to be on their guard. And then the other question I have to do with that, bro, is really honestly, how prepared is this organization here, this corporation here? How willing are they to report any such situation?
Yeah.
And how willing then would the local entities, such as the sheriff's office or your district or county attorney, how willing would they be ready to follow up and pursue something like that? Because this is a huge cash cow for this community. It's a lot of money pouring into Carrizo Springs, and money causes people to sell their souls, bro. I'm just gonna say it. So these are the things that people need to be talking about, and they need to be praying about, and just so what level of integrity exists at the corporate level here and at your local law enforcement level as well. That's what I'm saying, because I just have to put it out there. As a law enforcement officer for 30 years, bro.
Yeah, and many people throughout this time that we've been getting involved have said, why get involved? Why get involved now? You've never gotten involved before. We always say it, we've been involved all the time. Our personal congregation has been involved in all the things that have been happening the best of our ability in this town. And when it came to this situation, we knew that many of us, along with other concerned citizens, needed to continue getting involved. Because, again, if we care about life, it's not just about the life of those who may encounter harm. We are Americans, everyone. We still have rights. We still have privileges. And we can see that there is definitely that there is an overlooking of our rights from our administration. There's an emphasis put on those, whether what I'm about to say rubs you wrong or not, those who are coming over illegally. Some of us have to say, hey, we were here first. We did the right things in becoming American citizens, like my mom, like my grandma, who became American citizens the right way. There is complete hypocrisy from this administration all across the board. So we definitely want to help you understand what's going on. All of this has to be paid for. Our tax dollars are going to be used for this. You need to understand. So when it came to the explosion of illegal immigration that has also impacted our community throughout the past few months, what we were saying is Well, how bad does it need to get? When it comes to criminal activity, does someone need to get hurt? Just the other day, we had a car chase come through town. Just the other day, this is after all this happened in Del Rio, and our sheriff's department chased the car that was getting away, and it crashed at City Hall, everyone.
Wow.
Hit 2 cars. What if those people would have been in those cars?
Would have been a pedestrian there.
And because of trying to smuggle someone across.
Yeah.
And these are the types of things that we have been saying forever. What is it going to take? We want to avoid that. That's the whole point of getting involved. When it comes to the children, what's it going to take? We shouldn't wait till there's an incident. That's the point. We're not supposed to wait till something bad happens. It's called being proactive.
Yeah.
And as we live in this community again, many, because they're largely Hispanic, you don't talk about your own race or immigrants, all that type of stuff. You're racist, you're heartless. We've dealt with it all. But somebody has to say something or it'll continue.
And let me say something to that. Look, you heard me say something about, about the President Biden. He's a Democrat, the socialist wind that's taken over the current Democrat Party. But anyways, on the Republican side, Governor Abbott, honestly, I believe could have done a lot more.
I agree. Yeah.
He could have done a lot more to stop it, to at least exert some pressure on Mexico, so that Mexico would have an incentive to deal with this human pipeline on the Mexican side, and so there's equal blame to go around, but at the end of the day, man, I mean, we have to take into account that a house has to take care of itself. And our finances as a nation are not unlimited. Already, inflation, the national debt. You would not run your household this way. You would go broke.
Yeah.
You would go broke, and so it's a definite issue. And you're right. You said something. Even as mandates are being pushed on American citizens, some being threatened with their jobs if they don't follow through with with the vaccinations, etc.
Yeah.
A million people going on 1.5, probably close to 2 million by the end of the year would have entered our country legally, and no one has said a peep about mandating anything on them or even asking them to obey the law. I mean, and so those are just some thoughts, and some of the things I've seen as I've been out there, reporting to America what's happening.
Yeah. And we have to come together. There's all the different counties coming together, reporting and doing their part. As always, we want to extend our thanks to those who are on the front lines, our Border Patrol and those of our law enforcement who are doing their job to help secure the welfare of their communities. But I want to say to all of our citizens in Dimmit County, we have to still get together. We still have to attend city council meetings. We still have to call our sheriff's department. We have to still keep everyone accountable. We have to go to commissioner's court. We need to be involved. It's not enough sitting back and sharing posts on Facebook, although that, of course, does help. It gets the information out. We should also do our best to make the decision to call, to email, as we share information. And if we're able to be out there, if we're able to do more than that, then let's do it together, because the Biden administration, regardless of where you stand, whether you voted for him or not, this is something that needs to continue to happen.
Yes.
Our country is being destroyed right before our eyes. And just like Frank and just like myself, we look at our kids, we look at the place we live in, and we don't want to wake up one day in a very different America, which is really where we're going, and say, I didn't do anything about it. We want to do our very best humbly to do it. And yes, not everyone's going to like you, not everyone's going to agree, but we don't do it because we want people to like us. We do it because it's right to stand for righteousness, justice, and truth, because every life is valuable, and if we care about life, you got to care about what's going on. And so we want to leave our broadcast there. We're so grateful for everything that all of you continue to do. We thank you for your support. We ask that you keep sharing all of these reports at Dimmit County Border Crisis Reports page, and I want to leave it to Frank so we can send you his information as well. Say his information, how you can contact him, find him, if you can do that, Frank.
Yeah, sure. So on Facebook, I'm at Frank Lopez Jr. U.S. Border Patriot. Frank Lopez Jr. U.S. Border Patriot. Facebook and YouTube. So same name, Frank Lopez Jr. U.S. Border Patriot. Please like, subscribe. and looking at other platforms. But if you want to get a hold of me, just PM me on Facebook, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
We appreciate everyone. Stay vigilant. God bless.
God bless you. All right.